Interessante Tijden.
Goedenavond kijkers van Interessante Tijden TV. Dit is alweer de 60ste aflevering en vandaag hebben wij twee echte climate warriors in de uitzending. Uit Groot-Brittannië hebben we de klimaatstrijder Peiser van de Global Warming Policy Foundation. En natuurlijk mijn broeder in het goede al 15 jaar sinds ClimateGate, Marcel Crok van de Clintel Foundation. Nu jullie naar deze aflevering kijken, ik wil jullie er even op wijzen dat je kunt tegenwoordig ook lid worden van ons kanaal.
Zwarte Piet, wiet, ik hoor je wel, maar ik zie je niet. Wil je Sint te goed doen, gooi wat in mijn lege schoen. Zwarte Piet, wiet, ik hoor je wel, maar ik...
Kun je ons steunen en om ons werken, om goede gasten te brengen, mogelijk maken. En je kunt ook eventueel doneren, we hebben nog een linkje daarvoor en dan kun je het goede werk van ons hier steunen. Nou, dan gaan we nu naar de gasten toe. Peiser, very much welcome, Director of the Global Warming Policy Foundation and Net Zero Watch from Britain. You're here for lectures, I saw with Clintel. Yeah. And of course, en dat zeg ik even in het Nederlands, mijn broeder in het goede al 15 jaar, Marcel, sinds ClimateGate. Hè? Yeah. En jouw boek, De Staat van het Klimaat. Ja. En daar zit je nou eindelijk bij mij in ons showtje van Interessante Tijden. Ja. Interesting times, because that's what we're living, I guess, Benny. We were already talking about it. It's like crazy, huh? Rationality seems to have gone. And in this crazy going where we seem to live in an open asylum, you have managed the Global Warming Policy Foundation. If I summarize your work, it's just like with Net Zero Watch, it's showing to the audience what climate policies have for destructive effects on economy and household bills, and that's correct, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you fare? I saw in your lecture that you could bring some positive news, and that's what we long for now. Are we winning now after 15 years?
Yes and
as
no.
As climate warriors.
Yes and no. We are certainly winning over more and more people who are now becoming much more skeptical about the policies, about climate, because why? Because they have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And they have to pay a lot for it. Mm-hmm. And they also see their economies shrinking, their industries destroying or moving away. Their energy bills going up. So we're winning gradually, but in the meantime we're also losing because our societies are diminishing, our economies are shrinking, and societies are becoming even more radicalized by the green movement. So while we are winning, we haven't seen the worst yet.
Oh, so that's very uplifting news. The world is going mad and the apocalypse is near, actually. This is also why you're so much welcome in interesting times. We're living interesting times. And my website is also called Interesting Times because it was starting 7 years before. We could also see with Marcel how destructive climate policy would be for our freedoms, for our... Well, freedom is also the amount of money that you can spend for own purposes, of course, and it has even gone worse. Marcel, also, when we started with ClimateGate, the website, we thought it will turn, but it went worse.
I don't remember if we really believed it would turn, but I do remember that with our other friend Theo Wolters, that we had a lot of discussion that should we now claim victory or should we give a hand to the opponent and start a dialogue with them? Yeah. And we decided to do the last. Yeah. So I actually did climate dialogue for several years.
Oh yeah, of course.
And that was our because we could have said, we told you so. We told all these years that the IPCC is corrupt and the scientists are corrupt, and now there is the evidence in these ClimateGate emails, you know.
Yeah.
And But we decided to, let's say, okay. So now you see to the other side. Now you see what's going on.
Yeah.
But okay, so now let's open the debate.
Yeah.
That's what we tried to do.
Yeah,
And for some years it worked actually.
Yeah, we had some success because we were even invited by Parliament for a hearing session. We were even invited then as token climate skeptics to the Planbureau voor de Leefomgeving.
Yeah, but I mean,
So
this climate
it worked
dialogue
for a while.
This climate dialogue was funded by the government.
Yeah.
And so the minister actually said to the KNMI, and the KNMI knew that it was my plan. It was my plan, climate dialogue with Theo Wolters.
Yeah.
And the minister said to KNMI, you are going to set up this climate dialogue together with Marcel. So that was a big victory for us. And one other project that I did, the government gave me money to review the next IPCC report.
Yeah.
So I think that's unheard. Even internationally, that the government gives a skeptic some money to critically examine the next IPCC report. That was AR5. So there were some successes in those years.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, everything changed in 2015. I remember I was in Parliament for a hearing in 2015. I was invited by the PVV, the Geert Wilders party. And I was sitting there and nobody was asking me anything.
No.
So it felt like de roepen in de woestijn, the silent voice in the desert, And Marianne Minnesma was there. Marianne Minnesma is the front woman of the Urgenda.
Yeah.
And they started already the court case against the government. And she was, in 2015, she went to Paris by foot. With a group of people.
Like a real
group of people.
Climate religion
by
pilgrim.
foot. And she got airtime on public television every evening.
Yeah.
10 minutes. Free publicity on the public television.
Of course. So that was the start of the 2030 agenda that diplomats from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs had signed. And they injected this whole 2030 agenda in academia, in media, and in the public debate. And then it was over. Have you experienced the same as well?
Same.
Yeah. So now I heard that there's even an asteroid called after you, Peiser.
Yes.
Yeah, and they mean that you are one possible destructor of the planet, or?
No, it's quite a big asteroid. It's about 10 kilometers across, so it could be an extinction level asteroid, but it's not a threat. It's not a near-Earth object.
Oh, so they don't fear you with the Global Warming Policy Foundation?
No.
But could you mention some names that are called to you? Because now the debate, if there ever was a debate, it has become more polarized, and it's not about arguments anymore.
No, the positive development, the good news is that the old climate consensus, the old political consensus, the all-party consensus, that has broken. There are now parties beginning to object. Not just populist parties, but also some conservative parties are beginning to realize this is damaging to the economy, to society. So, in a way, that we've achieved to break the consensus and allow critical voices to be heard in the media, in the newspapers, in the mass media, and in parties. So that has changed.
Okay. So you are feared in some circles with the Global Warming Policy Foundation? Because if I summarize for people, you have a news service, so you collect all kind of news articles showing the devastation of climate policies, that renewables don't work, how they damage nature, all this kind of stuff that is about facts that journalists can use. It's like a news service.
Yes.
Yeah. And how are your opponents reacting on that? Could you open it? Have you also been threatened or have been called names, or what do they
ever
do
since
strategies to diminish you?
The first strategy they use, like all radical lefties, do not discuss any issues with them. Right? Just taint them and demonize them, but never ever discuss any arguments, right, or issues. Because what happens whenever there is a debate, and occasionally there are debates either in a school or at university or in a public debate, whenever there's a debate, we come out on top. In other words, people, I remember going to schools and the teacher, like in the Oxford Union debate, you start and say, okay, the motion is the government should do much more about climate change. Who is in favor? And normally you would have about 30 pupils, and you would see 28 pupils in favor, and then 2 naughty boys saying, I'm against, right? Right, just as a matter of principle, we're against. Whatever we're against, right?
It doesn't matter what.
But after the debate with a Greenpeace person or a green person, where you explain what the problems are, that we are doing it and the rest of the world isn't doing it, that we are, destroying our industries, the energy price going up. After the debate, the teacher asks the pupils again, okay, so the government should do much more on climate change. And you see suddenly, instead of 2, 10 people had. So whenever there is a proper debate on climate issues or net zero, once people realize that you're not completely crazy, because that's what they paint you, you're crazy or denier, and you have actually valid arguments, and they say, well, actually, that makes sense what he's saying, right? It's actually, I agree. You see a shift in opinion immediately. But that's why they want to avoid. They want to avoid that
but they have been so successful, of course, in cancelling you. This is what they did with Marcel as well.
Absolutely.
He had this new Climate the Movie film, and they were not allowed to show it in a theater in Limburg, wasn't it? Yeah, where was that, Marcel?
In Brunsum.
Brunsum,
First we were cancelled in Maastricht.
Yeah.
That was actually funny, because that was the cinema where Roger Cox is the famous lawyer that is doing all the climate court cases in the Netherlands.
Yeah, with Urgenda,
And so he saw an inconvenient truth in that specific cinema in Maastricht in 2006. And he was blown away by this movie.
Yeah.
And so he went back to his colleagues, and he said to his colleagues, we should promote this movie. And his law firm paid for the movie to be seen free for 3 weeks. So in Maastricht, people in this cinema, people could see it for free for 3 weeks in 2006. And then he wrote a book, and then he started all these climate court cases. And now, and we rented one of the rooms there.
And you did it on purpose?
No. I didn't realize it at the start. I later did some research when they cancelled us. And so first we were cancelled in Maastricht. And then we moved to Brunsum, but there we were cancelled by the mayor. And that is even we now have a complaint to the Nationale Ombudsman. Because this goes against the law actually. Because this goes against freedom of expression. The mayor cannot forbid, on the content. She can say, well, it's not practical this week or whatever, but not because she disagrees with something.
Our problem maybe is, and I sense this in your saying as well, we want to believe in reason. And as soon as if reason gets a stage, then with arguments we can make our points and we can win debates. But the fact is now that we live in a more irrational society. People have lost Christianity as a founding religion, so they search for new religions. And this has become the Church of Climate, can I say it like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It is a religious movement.
And by the way, we are not winning because we have on reason. We are winning because of self-interest. People are concerned about their self-interest. They are realizing that they will be punished. They are being punished. They can't do what they used to do, or they have to pay more, or they can't afford this or that, or they are not allowed to eat this, or they can't drive this. And so this is not because we've convinced them of better arguments.
No.
It's because they realize, gosh, we are the ones who have to pay for all of this.
Yeah. So was our strategy not, also from Marcel, wasn't it faulted from the start? Because we were much more thinking like beta nerds, like if we have the right arguments and technical arguments and we show them more about two sides of the science, then we will convince people. Well, people were not waiting for that. They only wanted a new religion, something to believe in, and thinking that they were somehow better persons if they would act like that, just like the mayor of Brunson. Mm-hmm. She must really believe that she does good by blocking you. So was this also the Global Warming Policy Foundation. It brought out reports and showing the science in a different way. But how effective has this strategy been? Well, you now already summed up.
Well, basically, and we've discussed that, Marcel and I, we from the beginning said we are not so much focusing on the science. We're focusing on the economics and the politics. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it turned out that it's more the economics and the policies and the cost that changes people's views out of self-interest than the nitty-gritty details of climate science. Yeah. And it is this very, or you could say, people are more worried today about the cost of climate policy than climate change itself. Yeah. They're more worried about what they have to pay than about climate change.
U kijkt naar Interessante Tijden.
Yeah. Did you also do polls or measurements to validate that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Can you mention
asked,
an example?
So these surveys exist. There was a survey in the run-up to the European election, and they were asking, so are you in favor of governments doing more about climate change? And about 70% said yes. Mm-hmm. And then they said, are you in favor of doing more about climate change, even if that means higher taxes? And they said no.
No.
Simple.
Well, there you have it.
Simple. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very simple.
This is also with polls from government-rented exit polls. If they ask people, do you want to change the world or improve the planet? Of
course.
All say it.
Yes.
But if they would ask honest questions about, do you really want to pay much more, then 60% already says,
hold on. Yeah. Yeah.
We actually did a survey ourselves with Maurice de Hond a few years ago. Maurice de Hond is a famous, well-known guy doing polls, political polls as well. And so we did a survey among 3,000 people, Dutch people. And one of the questions was also, we asked about what was their favorite mitigation option. And they choose nuclear. Nuclear won on top of wind and solar. Yeah. And we asked, how much extra money do you want to spend each month on climate policy? 30% of the people said 0. 20% said less than 10 euro. So 50% of the population is 10 euro or less. But the people who give this answer, they don't realize that they already pay hundreds of euros a year.
Yeah. Well,
so
more
this is
per month.
This is
maybe even all. By all extra taxes, I think, if you also look at how much extra you pay over your gasoline, the Dutch government was the first one in 1992 who implemented a climate tax on gasoline. This was called het kwartje van Kok, so the dime of Kok. And this has gone up and up and up. So we have the most expensive gasoline in Europe, for example. And if you count that all up, we get into thousands of euros per year in the cost of climate policy. Also, we got energy tax. The minister who said, okay, we now privatize energy companies. And he said, I will eat my hat if energy bills now will get up. But he was the same guy who also implemented the energy tax. So now we, through net costs and through taxes, we now pay more in taxes and added taxes, we call it BTW, than actually in energy. So how much did he have to eat? So we can summarize this part now, I guess, by saying that maybe the so-called skeptics have in the beginning focused too much on debunking the science. Can we say that?
No, well, not they. They decided.
You did not do that.
They
No,
decided
you-
from the start.
Yeah, you did.
I focused a lot about climate science because, I am a science journalist like you.
Yeah.
We started from the science, you know.
Yeah.
In the first 5 years that I worked on after the hockey stick article that I got an award for, I worked for the first 5 years. I had the naive idea that I was having like a scientific debate with the official institute, with the KLIMAATHOAX.
Yeah.
And when my book came out, I remember I was interviewed by the Volkskrant,
Yeah.
a big interview with the Volkskrant, and the headline was, "There is no climate debate in the Netherlands." That was my quote.
Yeah.
You know, so at that time, after 5 years trying to have a debate, I realized they are fooling me, you know. There is no proper debate.
No.
So I realized it after 5 years. And then, of course, you start thinking, okay, if this is not about the science, what is it about?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
By the way, it is obviously about the science, but they avoid discussing the science. And by avoiding the science debate, which doesn't exist, you would essentially bang your head against the wall.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know, this issue will be decided on the science, right? But this will take perhaps 30, 40 years.
Yeah,
In the short term, in the next 4 or 5 years, it will all be about politics and economics and cost.
Yeah.
But in the long term, the science is not settled.
No.
And the reason that they don't want a science debate is very simple. The reason that what happened in the US about 20 years ago was a strong group of climate scientists who were skeptical. And they were saying, hold on, there is no crisis. It's not a problem. Warming is very slow, minimal. Who knows how much we are contributing and so on. So there was a divide in the US among scientists. And at the time they were writing columns and so on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the politicians said, well, look, if the scientists can't even agree, if that's a problem, you know, these scientists say that, these scientists say that,
Yeah.
we can't rush into radical policies. That's when the climate science community said, we cannot allow anyone to be skeptical, because the politicians will use that to say, well, if you cannot agree if it's a problem, why should we take radical? So that's when they said, the debate is over. We are all agreed. There is a consensus, and the deniers ignore the deniers. They don't represent science.
So then they started getting political.
Yes.
We could also see that in the climate gate emails that they were hiding their uncertainty from
Yeah,
others.
of course, absolutely.
They were hiding that their data were kind of based
For
on crap.
tactical reasons.
For tactical reasons. But then afterwards we thought in some way we were accepted, but now also journalism has gone worse. Your great friend Maarten Keulemans is a great example of that.
yeah. He interviewed Benny, by the way,
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yes, yesterday.
We are looking forward to the article.
Yeah, but when we started off, he was quite open to our version of the story. But also in the corona reporting, he just switched into some sort of partisan reporting, actually a sort of pro-government policy kind of thing. Did you also notice that in the questions that he asked, and that they are trying to frame you now as some kind of lunatic climate denier?
We'll see. He was quite open in his questions. It's very difficult for a journalist, even if, and I know journalists who are, let's say, more inquisitive and more scrutinizing. But if you work for the wrong newspaper, you cannot afford that. You cannot afford to ask these awkward questions, because you will be kicked out. And there are journalists who will be kicked out for, you know, asking or writing probing articles. So we'll have to wait and see. But by and large, what is happening in Britain is that for the first time, because of the crisis of the net zero policies and the economic downturn and so on, a lot of conservative newspapers are beginning to allow columnists to write more skeptical articles.
Yeah.
But that's changed, completely changed in the last 18 months or so.
Yeah, but also more different papers, because in Holland it was quite consistent. We had Elsevier Weekblad, who are now called EW, because Elsevier sold them.
I don't know.
And we have the right-wing newspaper, the Telegraph. Well, you have the Telegraph as well.
Yes.
You had, what was his name? James, the writer of Melons.
James Stellingpole.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Stellingpole.
basically lost his career more or less over this issue.
Yeah,
He
was completely
sacked.
cancelled.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What does he do
Absolutely.
now?
I think he's still a journalist, but he's not writing for the newspapers.
No, because that's the movement that we saw happening. Because 15 years ago, when we started off, we were also welcome in mainstream media, and now we are sitting here in the studio, the apocalypse. We call it the Eindtijd. Which is the apocalypse, and we are now in some way directed to our own channels, alternative media, where we can freely speak, but we are all...
Which is, by the way, if I may say so, a huge development, because social media now is a real competitor with mainstream media. Real.
That has really changed, and this is also a positive way, so the mainstream media somehow have to deal with the other side and have to deal with their arguments as well. So you have experienced that as well.
Yeah.
Also,
But the alternative media is like now growing so rapidly. I mean, especially look in the US. The US is always the first one, and we are following. I mean, like Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, Tucker Carlson, those people. I heard that last week I was in Brussels at a conference, and there was an investigative journalist from the US. He told us that during election night, CNN only had 5 million viewers. And that's nothing. On a regular evening, they have less than 1 million. So they're completely like, they imploded.
Yeah.
And this is where capitalism can work, because now they imploded, and then suddenly they have to sack people. Oh, we need a reorganization, because if there is no money anymore, then they suddenly want to change.
Yeah.
No, but before that...
Yeah, so you experience this as well. You are also invited to more alternative media in Britain compared to...
Oh, absolutely. We have an alternative TV channel, GB News, which is becoming more and more popular, sometimes overtaking the BBC.
Yeah. But
So there is an appetite, a growing appetite. People are bored with always hearing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
There's an appetite for diverse views. They want to hear different views.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear the same thing over and over again.
But then we have another problem that is coming up now. We see that because, of course, our governments are following the UN. We already talked about it. The United Nations, what we think of our leftist policies are actually United Nations policies. Like international socialist, just have one earth, one world government, all kind of stuff implemented through our governments and coming into local governments. But if you now see, they installed nudge units from the government, which is also part of this wider agenda that they have to push policies that are unpopular and will never work by psychological manipulation.
Yeah.
So then now the governments are framing us like being spreaders of disinformation, conspiracy thinking. How much times have you been called far right already?
We are not really regarded as far right.
No,
because
but that people call you like that.
No, they call us deniers.
Deniers.
We
Okay.
don't call us far right, mainly because we're not really that political. but they would.
Yeah.
But we have labor people now on our board. So
okay, so you guard...
we are non-party political, and we don't take a strong view on these party political issues at all.
No.
So, I mean, we are being demonized, no doubt, but they call us other names.
Okay, but
Similar.
Also, but also from government agencies, I guess.
No,
there's also
they
vested
ignore.
interest in academia, like Oxford,
Yes.
Cambridge.
Oh, yeah,
they
yeah.
all have these climate
Yes.
departments who thrive financially by this story.
Absolutely. I mean, the money that is being spent on this issue and handed out to institutions and NGOs is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So the reality is we are a tiny little NGO, tiny little think tank. We
like
have
David to Goliath.
with a tiny budget, tiny. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 staff.
Ah.
Okay, and they are scared of us.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Scared. Why? Because they know that journalists and MPs, which is perhaps we're only talking about perhaps 50, 60 people.
Yeah.
But they are the ones who will use the information that we provide and will spread it, and they will write columns and will influence the mass media and so on.
Yeah.
So that's why I fear that we might eventually go down the kind of Chinese route where governments say you're not allowed to publish certain things, or you're not allowed social media to allow certain...
Yeah.
I mean, it's already happening.
Yeah. Oh, so you experience that as well, because the disinformation kind of stuff that they implement, which is also a nudging word.
What they are currently doing is if you say something wrong on social media, they'll send you the police.
Yeah.
And say we've had a complaint. We've had a complaint that you either wrote something on social media or you retweeted something on social media.
Oh my God, yeah.
You better, and we might, persecute you for that. So the intimidation is already there.
Yeah.
That's the first step. The next step is that, and we've seen people being imprisoned for just writing the wrong stuff. Seriously.
Yeah.
The next.
Also on the climate part or not?
No.
That not?
No.
So you're safe in
it's
that
on
way.
migration and things like that.
The even more sensitive stuff.
Yeah. But I can see this getting worse, and essentially people for being either basically imprisoned for saying the wrong thing, or being banned for saying the wrong thing, being punished for saying the wrong thing. I very much worry that we're going down this route.
Yeah. So, but you go with your pension, so you will not... or maybe you have too much time left then and you start tweeting about migration and then they finally find Benny
No,
Peiser
I'm just saying it's a real threat to our open societies that governments think we can't go on like this.
Yeah.
We have to clamp down because we will not be able to achieve our political goals if the public gets the wrong information. And they call it misinformation, right? Or fake information. And they want to clamp down and they say only legitimate information. What is legitimate information? This comes from an institution, from a university or from a society, but individuals can, misinform and that will prevent our policies from being implemented.
Yeah, but they did not put your organization yet on a list deemed by fact checkers as being.
We are being fact checked all the time.
Okay.
And what the other thing is, what the activists were trying. They tried to shut us down. We are a
like really stopping your organization?
Yeah. We are an educational charity, so we have charitable status as because we publish reports and research, and they complained to the charity commissions and they should be shut down, right? thankfully, we managed to convince the Charity Commission that that's unsubstantiated and unjustified, and we managed to stay alive. But that, for the last 15 years, has been the attempt by the eco activists to close us down.
Yeah, for how many times you say?
How many times have
Yeah.
they tried for the last 15 years?
Yeah. Constantly.
Constantly. Never ending. Constantly.
Yeah, but the Church of Climate is very strong in your country. We visited Gloucester Cathedral, where they even put solar panels on this monumental Gothic building.
Yes.
Because the whole church is into the climate.
Which makes it more holy.
Yeah, or is it also, could you also say then that the British government is losing, and its institution is losing its trust from its own people?
It's hemorrhaging trust. It's hemorrhaging. The new government was only elected, I don't know, 3-4 months ago or so. Mm-hmm. They are already less popular than the old one, which was very unpopular. So look, it's not rocket science. If you cannot deliver economic growth, if you cannot deliver social stability, if you cannot prevent chaos on the streets, people will be disillusioned.
Yeah. So you think it's also a part of despair from the government that they now go down the Chinese route and just stifle debate and deem who's right to say and who's not?
Imagine you sit around the cabinet table and they say, "What are we doing wrong? Why is the public so annoyed about and angry about us?" And they will say, well, it's because all the people saying on social media we are crazy and how can we prevent that from happening?
Yeah.
So that's the next step. How can we prevent the public from communicating that they don't like us?
It's the same here in Holland. Everyone who is now critical of government is called far right or anti-institutional extremist.
Yes.
You know the label as well?
Same.
It's the same, because this is also internationally coordinated, just like Build Back Better, Great Reset. All these terms are from an international bureaucracy and now implemented on our... We also go to Marcel. You have been framed many times in the last 15 years as climate denier and lying and cheating all the time. And I think the death point was by Jan-Paul van Soest.
Yeah,
his report about you leading some kind of with American skeptics and the crazy Benny Peiser in some world conspiracy. What it called, klompen in de machinerie was it?
He wrote actually the Dutch version of Merchants of Doubt.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And so it's like he more or less copied the book. He referred to the book all the time, and then he tried to also expose the Dutch Merchants of Doubt. And I mentioned in the book, and I was interviewed by him.
You're the super merchant.
Yeah,
I'm maybe one of the more visible merchants of doubt. But the crazy thing is, this guy got government money to do the research for this book. Yeah, because it started with an essay, and then the essay became a book, and for the essay he got money. I tried to do a Freedom of Information Act request, and I asked how much money did he get for the essay, and they refused to give the numbers. But then my email to the institute turned up in his book, so they forwarded my email to him. So I was like, okay, this is how it works.
Yeah. So this is one of many examples how the government, the fourth power, the bureaucracy, cooperates with climate activists to pursue their agenda. Yeah. You must have had numerous examples, but it went even further. Now they also attack you with media. You can see that they try to push you in a corner, but it also has some kind of, how do you say, the David against Goliath thing. They accuse you of being some kind of, maybe that is also the paradox of the left. Yeah. They now call everyone conspiracy thinker, while their own worldview is based on a big conspiracy.
True.
Yeah, so you have the legitimate conspiracy, that is what the left people say about us, and you have the crazy conspiracy thinkers, and that is everything that contradicts the left's own conspiracy theory. Do I say that in the right way?
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
But I mean, in the beginning, maybe I was like, I feel like cancelled and stuff like that. But nowadays, and I think you feel the same, when you see the patterns and when you understand how they behave, I don't take it personal anymore because, of course, it hurts me. It has affected my career and my opportunities to make a living and money, etc.
Yeah.
So it is effective and it hurts me, it damaged me. But I don't take it personal because they will do it with anyone. Good example, we have this World Climate Declaration, Clintel World Climate Declaration. Last year, John Clauser, Nobel Prize winner in physics 2022, decided to sign our World Climate Declaration. So that's for us, that's nice. You have a prominent scientist signing our declaration. So we send out press release, etc. A few days later, his talk at his planned talk at he would give a talk at IMF, International Monetary Fund.
Yeah.
The talk was cancelled.
Oh my God.
The talk was cancelled. So even if you are a Nobel Prize winner in physics and you have the wrong views about climate change, you are immediately cancelled. And in some ways that's like, it feels like, okay, I don't have to take it personal. It's just that I have the wrong views on this issue and it's not about me. It's about them and they're protecting their agenda, of course.
Because actually they're on a rational basis, they are on such a weak base that they know they would lose a debate if they would let more skeptics in. Is
absolutely.
That correct?
They would.
Yeah.
They avoid debates.
So actually they're on a real weak basis. But they have attacked you also so much in Britain, I guess. How did it affect your personal life? Did you never have a period in your life that you felt like, can I hold on to this and what's the point? We being like small David and there's climate Goliath, we will never have any effect compared to the billions that are put into the climate industrial complex.
First of all, they never really affected our work.
No, but they did not get under your skin in any way.
No. We have a quite eminent group of trustees and academic advisors. We never really responded. We just took it on the chin and moved on. So it hasn't really affected us in any way, which made them even more angry.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, just by being undercooled and
But yesterday we were also visited by Holger from EINDE, our fellow in institute or foundation in Germany. And if you hear his stories, it's far worse.
Yeah.
It's far worse. So they lost their tax friendly status, which makes it harder to get donations. But whenever they organize something, they cannot even announce the venue, because if they announce the venue, let's say a few months ahead, then the Antifa and other action groups, they will like bully the venues until they conquer.
It's true. I was
surrender. So it's really like, for them, it's almost impossible to run the organization.
Yeah.
And I think in that sense, Holland is much better and probably UK as well.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So now just one prospect for the next 5 years. You will be on a pension and enjoy your free time.
Yes, indeed.
And
I've done my bit.
You've done your bit. And but now you already said that people are waking up because they are seeing the rising costs. They are starting to feel it. But how much did your think tank, can you measure what it actually did to change the debate? Or is it actually your existence was worthwhile, but then actually climate policy did its own job? It hurt its own foundations.
we were quite instrumental actually in the change of the debate in Britain, because we have been working with a lot of MPs.
Oh.
And then a group of MPs, like 50, 60 MPs, created a group, Net Zero Scrutiny group of MPs, who looked into the economics, the cost issue. We worked with them. So they relied a lot on the information we provided them. We briefed them, we helped them with the research and so on. So we were just the first. And people, basically, the situation was this. You had the campaigners and the activists and the kind of true believers. They represent perhaps somewhere like 15 to 20% of the public, roughly. And then you had the skeptics in the public, more represented than among, let's say, the political class. And they represent perhaps 10%. 15%, less, perhaps only 10, if you look at the surveys. In the middle is the big chunk of people who we call fence sitters. They sit on the fence and they watch what's going on and they put the finger in the wind to see where's the wind blowing. And for the last, 20 years, the wind was blowing into the green direction. So people would say, okay, we're going with the majority. Now the wind is shifting, and these fence sitters are now much more going towards the skeptics than towards the activists. So the middle ground in the public, they have never had a strong view on climate issues, but they are concerned about what they have to pay for it. And so that's, I think, where we are beginning to win the battle for hearts and minds. The majority in the public are becoming more and more concerned about the cost. And less about the climate.
That's a good message to conclude with, at least your part. How do you think, Marcel, Clintel is still also a small think tank, but the debate has already, after being favorable to us, shifting to be an antagonist to us, now moving again a little bit to the more skeptic side. We have now the PVV, who is a climate skeptic party. BBB is also more on the skeptic side. They also accepted your report on the inefficiency of wind farming and
het windmolendrama.
So
for me that's kind of a breakthrough, because now we have like BBB accepted the first copy of this report, and they ask questions in parliament. So and they are in the government. So there is now a government party openly using Clintel information in the parliament. So he actually mentioned the report again in a debate with the minister, Sophie Hermans of the Ministry of Climate and Green Growth. And so this is a breakthrough in the sense that, and he, of course, I discussed with this MP, and he says, Marcel, BBB is really against new wind turbines. Trust me, we are really not in favor of building more. But still, the coalition agreement is still continue with the Paris Agreement. So he is in Parliament. So he has a bit of a problem because but he is really like delaying. What you say is that the strategy now is delaying, saying this is unaffordable, this is not possible. So we have to postpone, we have to delay, we have to move the target maybe from 2050 to 2100 or whatever, So and this is, I think this is a positive development. It's hard to.
But then we still have all the money and the institutions. You have people calling themselves a transition professor, impact manager, and all this kind of green jobs that are created by government money. They won't go away in the next 5 years.
Until you have a Dutch melee.
That can go quite I believe that could go quite quickly.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, because I mean, government money is always like, what's this year budget? Where's the money? Where can we allocate the money? Yeah, and so that can go. I mean, let's take the acid rain period. Yeah, das große Waldsterben. It came up in 1980 in one article in Der Spiegel. Yeah, one article, and then it was the hype. It lasted for 10 years. Our friend Jaap Hanekamp played a role in this in the Netherlands. And then suddenly, Jaap told me that in a hearing in Parliament, the politicians realized the emperor has no clauses. And then it collapsed. And suddenly, the scientists who were the acid rain experts, they all disappeared.
No,
They were gone. They were gone.
They moved.
I thought they
into
became climate scientists.
Yes, of
Yes,
course.
of them.
So they had to reinvent themselves.
and they
But-
morphed into biodiversity activists.
Yeah.
So
Right.
they put the acid rain, they morphed it into nitrogen. And from nitrogen, they coupled it to biodiversity. And now we have the nitrogen crisis. So they just put on
They
the
jumped from one
of course, they
bandwagon to
try to reinvent themselves, but this will also happen with, let's face it, this will also happen with climate. If climate will slowly disappear,
They will all become
find,
AI specialists.
but they will find new scares,
course,
and then of course it's a parasitic democracy, you know. So there will always be a lot of parasites,
Yeah.
because there is a lot of government money available, and the parasites want this money,
Yeah.
and they don't care about which topic they have to sell.
And governments need experts to come up with the next scare
Of course,
that
yeah.
you can tax.
Yeah, they always need new taxes.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
but one last prediction then. What do you think? How much time will it cost until the climate-industrial complex collapses?
That's a good question.
U kijkt naar Interessante Tijden.
We were discussing the 300 billion climate fund
Yeah, I heard
yesterday,
about that.
right? Because the climate fund is running out next year and has to be replaced. It could be that the money will dry out because the West, the G7, is not going to pay any money into the UN climate fund unless the Chinese and the Russians and the Saudis also put money
Oh,
in
they
there.
put that as a condition in.
Yes.
Aha. Because I also calculated by Euronews, we were called like rich industrialized countries. But thanks to climate policies, we are not industrialized anymore, and we are
Not rich.
We're not rich anymore.
Exactly.
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I saw that the ECB has bought government debts with the worth of, was it 10,000 billion euros, something like that.
Yeah.
A crazy.
So this money is going to dry out.
Yeah.
And once the money dries out, the thing is over.
Yeah, because the parasites need to
Yeah.
find something new.
Ja. Marcel, hoe lang denk jij dat bij ons het klimaatindustrieel complex het gaat uithouden?
It depends on what you call the climate industrial complex. I mean shutting down.
Academia, NGO's and all the...
Academia is the last one.
Yes.
Surrendering.
Yeah.
I mean, they will be the last one. So what will happen is that first it's the voters' revolt. That was your talk about. So that's now upcoming. Voters' revolt. Then the politicians need to move because they need the voters. Yeah. And then we need to wait till there is like a full right-wing anti-climate policy government. We still don't have it yet in Holland.
No.
Although we have a right-wing government, we don't have an anti-climate policy government yet. And then if they shut the money, for example, KNMI. I mean, if I now would be the minister, I would say, okay, KNMI, you did a bad job.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will cut your funding with 80%. And first you're going to show that you can be
Because
better.
you're a softie. You shouldn't shut them down.
Yeah. Milai would shut them down. Milai would shut them down. I would give them a second chance. Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I'm a softie.
So, then is my next last question also to you. When will you go into politics then?
No.
I call him in the
No,
Dutch is the
Marcel
onkruidbaar.
will. This is my prediction. Once you have a proper conservative government in Holland, they will ask Marcel to become the environment minister. Because this is what's happening now in the US. The lockdown skeptic who was banned from Twitter will become the director of the National Institute of Health. And the fracking guy who started the shale revolution is becoming the energy secretary. So what I'm saying is simple. If you want to save the economy, if you want to turn it around, you have to get back to rational policies. Whether this is going to happen or not, I don't know. But if it's not happening, forget the economy, forget Europe, because Europe will become no longer a developed continent. It will be they will ask for climate funds. They
Yeah.
will say, China, we need your money.
Yeah.
We need your technology. I mean, the Europeans are already saying they want technology transfer from China. They are already asking for technology transfer.
So it's the other way around. in
the
just
other way
20
around,
years. Yeah.
absolutely.
I saw in also one of your graphs of your lecture that China has overtaken the EU in CO2 emissions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are we talking about anyway?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so let us close up with the prediction that within 5 years, the climate industrial complex will fall. If Trump is now leading, or is
Who
it
knows?
too optimistic?
It's
I want to give my viewers some good outlook.
It's possible. It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
It can go rather quickly because, as you say, if Trump decides no money anymore to the UN, not even Paris Agreement, but no money to the UN FCCC, who's organizing the yearly conferences, then they have to find something new.
Then there is no money, basically.
Because I also saw that he was trying to axe the climate fund of Biden, who was trying to invest in so-called green hydrogen, which is also one of the fairy tales.
Yeah.
And now the industry that was put in place also in Europe is now cancelling one project after another because the funding is dry.
And he will tell the Europeans, look, we're not putting any money in the climate fund, but if you want, you need some oil, some gas, we take Bitcoin as well. So just, we've got plenty.
Okay. Hey, so gentlemen, thank you. We will not take all the problems of the world on our own. We know that Europe is collapsing, our society is waning, and we have all kinds of different problems. But at least what we can show now here is that with these two gentlemen can make a national difference on a much grander scale than you would expect. And they fear you in some way.
Oh, well, that's the reason why.
Yeah. So one man can do a lot, and this is the positive message I want to give with you. So don't give up. Also, if you're feeling isolated and people call you names, and so just be convinced of your mission and the good values and norms that you provide to your followers, and hold on. Benny has done that now for 15 years with many opposition. He had been called climate denier and the worst person of Britain, I guess, almost. Marcel has been called, framed into some kind of world conspiracy with being the Goldstein of climate. And they still maintain here, they are still here and doing good work. Support Marcel's work also on Clintel. And also look at the Global Warming Policy Foundation and their Net Zero Watch. They provide excellent service through email also, where you can have news on economic backlash that is provided, that is caused by climate change, about renewable energies that may not be so renewable. So a very good health news service. And then you are really up to date and can also engage in a factual debate with the still believers. Mm-hmm. So I thank these people for doing their great work. Their websites are under the YouTube channel here. And also support our work in bringing us the good news that we are winning. Well, it takes a little slow, but think about the story of David and Goliath. David also he had a strong belief in God is behind me, and I get the motherfucker in some way. And he just threw a stone, and Goliath collapsed in a way. Also, you just watched that I still wear this rather dead than slave shirt, the Frisian war cry, where we can conquer our own culture back and our own heritage. I think this is a very important one. You can order it down here, and you can also still buy the book about the search for the Frisian soul in our culture. It is still there at lieverdooddanslaaf.com. En wat wil jij nog zeggen, Afke?
Word lid van ons kanaal.
Oh, en word lid van ons kanaal. Maar dat heb ik ook al in het filmpje aan het begin ingesproken. Je kunt gewoon lid worden. En ik hoop dat jullie hier nou niet gaan klagen over dat het in de steenkolen Engels was. Alle Nederlanders kennen toch potdomme nou een keer wel Engels. Ik heb het geleerd van die ATM. Zo heb ik. I learned my English from looking at the ATM. We had subtitles and you heard the words. And if B.A. Baracus was saying something about flowers and I saw the word bloemen, then I knew, oh, flowers, that's bloemen. So don't complain that this was in stone cold English. You can all understand that. And thank you for your time, and like and subscribe, and we see you the next time with a new special guest. And thank you for your time here, for coming here in our ghetto in Zwolle.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.